Without them, this would not be possible. Feedback, you've heard me say it a bazillion times, but BSides.com/feedback for site feedback, conference feedback. And then if you have specific session feedback, go in the schedule, click on the session feedback, the feedback survey link on the particular session. Again, we have one more raffle coming up for a $150 Amazon gift card, courtesy of Gemalto. So make sure to put in for that. And then there's also some T-shirts. I think there's some T-shirts left, so feel free to go grab one if you can find one in your size. Otherwise, this is Gadi Evron going to speak on APT reports and OPSEC evolution.
Hi everybody, how are you doing today? So, originally, be quiet. These are the droids. Okay. So, originally this talk was supposed to be an hour. We gave it at CCC. And then it was pushed down to 30 minutes at Kaspersky Sauce. And now I'm supposed to give it 25 minutes. So I'm going to skip the introductions. I'm Gadi. I'm usually doing this talk with Inbar Raz, who gets a lot of credit for me. And with that, let's just get started. So the name of the talk is obviously APT reports and OPSEC evolution, or as we like to call it. These are not the APT reports you're looking for. And the reason for that is we think that most, if not very many, of the APT reports today simply suck. I can use this language. I'm not in a blanket type environment right now. Many of them are good, many of them are not. We would like to essentially simplify the attack process. We'd like to show the evolution of different threat actors, how they learn, what they do with that, and suggest ways to close that evolutionary gap, specifically by APT reports and how they can help us as opposed to just the attackers. So I'm going to run through this as quickly as I can while still making sense. I do want to say I did give this lecture a couple of months ago and people didn't know what APT is. I'm not going to explain. It's a threat actor or whatever definition you choose to use. There we go. So let's start with a story just to get an idea of what I want to do. Once upon a time, we had malware. We've had malware forever. It's not a new story. We have been there. We've done that. That is fine. But then an APT report came out. The very first one I'm really aware of. There have been incidents before, naturally, but the one that really hit the news. And as a security practitioner, to be honest, I didn't really care. I said, yeah, we know. I mean, they did take a picture of the building in China where they work, which was pretty cool. But why should this particular report matter to me in any way whatsoever? But it did. Putting that report on the table when you go talk to the board, trying to get funding or anything else, this report made a whole lot of difference for me personally and for many others. The Mandiant APT-1 report. And more importantly, the operations of APT-1, the infrastructure was significantly disrupted. But they were not alone. We have seen many, many other campaigns. For example, Stuxnet at Flame. Stuxnet was very tight. It was a 500K malware. Very, very target specific, very specific in what it wanted to do. On the other end, we had Flame. Flame was a monster. It was 20 megabytes big. I'm imagining that every single module they could have, every vulnerability, naturally I'm probably wrong, but that's what I imagine, they put in there. When Stuxnet was lost, it was a big hit probably for whatever intelligence organization was behind it. The press says United States and Israel. Either or, whatever. When Flame got out, I'm trying to imagine the impact of an APT-1 report at that scale. And it boggles the mind operationally to have been there and trying to think, did they have an OPSEC talk? Did they try to figure out what to do when 20 megabytes of all their tools get lost? So actors started adapting. This is not chronological. So let's look just a couple. Gauss. They were a scaled operation over 2K as far as we know. But Gauss also had been used on very, very specific targets, in a way encrypted, so it only opens on a specific machine. How do you scale that? Do you scale that? How much effort do you need to put into it to create such a specific attack? Rocket Kitten, it was my research along with some others such as SkyCure, Trend Micro worked on this a little bit, and we did this talk a year ago at CCC. They just used an off-the-shelf tool, Core Impact. If they lose that, do they care? Do they not care? It was very easy for them to get this capability, supposedly Iran. We would like to think they had these OPSEC meetings. So let's talk a little bit about OPSEC as we see it relevant here in 60 seconds. Why do you need OPSEC? First of all, you want to assure the success of your operation. Very simple. You want to prevent the detection of the operation. That's great. What does success mean? And you want to prevent attribution. Personally, I understand why attribution is important. I understand why people concentrate on attribution. I see it as a waste of a lot of effort. A lot of colleagues will disagree with me, but that's fine. And there are analogous processes, whether it's regular software development, risk management. We want to figure out how much do we need to invest? How much do we need to stop ourselves? What capabilities can we actually reach? More than that, when is OPSEC compromised? So first of all, time to market. Rushing it is never good. Scalability. You try to scale the operation. You're taking risks. And ease of deployment. How easy is it going to be for you? Do you need to flip an IT guy, teach them how to do security, sneak them in, and then stick in a USB key? I don't know. Could be a pain. So generally, and I don't use that word lightly, every report out there, every APT report, 80 pages report out there, is based somehow on an OPSEC failure. So for me, it comes down to, what can we do to learn from this and use it against them to better ourselves in a way? So with the hacking team, we actually had a really good example. According to Citizen Lab, we could actually read in their emails how they reacted to being exposed by Citizen Lab, and the only thing they cared, and I'm going to quote, their primary concern seems to have been not getting caught again. Really. But we don't usually have this sort of visibility. So we need to guess. Now, looking at APT reports, many of them are good, but with many of them, I feel like it's mainly made for PR purposes, and they're really huge, 80, 60 pages long. So essentially, what do we get from them? We often feel as if we're commentators just working on other people's work and trying to figure it out. So as a result, there is an asymmetry. An asymmetry in cyber, right? We like to call it cyber nowadays, is really a problem we're facing every day. We're not going to go into that. And for me, it's not just that these APT reports are good for the attackers, essentially being their QA, but rather everybody is learning. Every actor out there is looking at these reports and how the other actors got compromised. And the free QA just helps them. So let's look at a couple of lessons learned just to get started. APT1, very basic command control servers, IP addresses, compromised infrastructure is done. We have Turla, which was released by Kaspersky, and they were hijacking satellite traffic, which is pretty cool as far as evolution goes, although we're skipping several years in between. There is learning in progress. So Stuxnet, Dooku, and Flame. Dooku 2 actually still had similar code in it that helped in attribution. And then, you never know. For example, Iron Tiger, I'm sorry if you don't know all these campaigns, that's fine, was clearly Chinese. We can go into that later over beer. Corretto, the Musk, everything was so perfect. You could even see the distribution of the attack. Who else would care about these dissidents in Spain except for Spain, right? Everything would be so perfect. I would even say, could this be a false flag? How could we really make sure? And lastly, Dooku 2, they started learning. There are multiple false flags for many, many APTs trying to throw the researchers out of whatever they're trying to do. So you read an APT report. That's pretty cool. What do you actually get? Malware analysis, a lot of it. Some IOCs, indicators of compromise. Some C2 setup, command and control servers, pretty cool. Attack vectors, not really. Attacker objective, nearly never anything at all. So this feels like it's really confusing again. What do we actually do with this to move forward? So for me, we tried to reverse engineer attacks by looking at forensic data, APT reports. What if we tried to use the same information and a lot of technical investigation went into this talk, and we're not, if anybody is expecting kernel shellcodes or malware analysis, please walk out, I apologize in advance. A lot of investigation went into this just to be able to do one thing. Re-engineer the attacker's methodologies, their operations based on technical information. So let's talk about the attacker side and move through this quickly. First thing they do, and this is simplified naturally, it changes between threat actors and countries, is intelligence requirements. It's like going shopping. What would you like to know? Examples are, does Saddam Hussein have WMDs? Where are the WMDs? Does he intend to use the WMDs? Who is working on the WMDs? How can we get Matt Damon back? Whoever got the joke, thank you very much. I appreciate it. In Germany, not so much. Ah, you laugh at that one. Nice. Now, the second part is, you know what you want, let's compile the target list. Where can I find the answers, or who holds the information I need? Examples, verticals, we get that in reports sometimes. Specific targets, not so much, again. Exceptions are the Sophacy group, pretty hot right now. They're just opportunistic as far as I know. They pick whatever they can. We're not talking about any exceptions here. Intelligence gathering, third step in our simplified model. First of all is the target report. You're trying to figure out what does the target look like, what am I going to face, all that stuff. Nice. Second is attack plan and execution. What is my plan of attack? And what tool or weapon would I like to use in order to execute the attack? Perfect. Next. Let's think about a specific tool, such as Stacknet, Dooku, Flame, and Gauss. And then, using something on the ground. For example, this Dell SecureWorks report showed using the Altiris system, I hope I pronounced it right, in order to, using the provisioning system inside the organization to do what they wanted to do. But the thing is, it goes on. This same process can be on the outside of the network, then inside the network when you try to pivot or do lateral movement, and it goes on, and it feeds on itself. It's an intelligence cycle. So, how many of us watched this on Facebook when it came out and watched the whole thing through, right? I'm going to save you the trouble. So, at this stage, we need to take a step back and think about intelligence gathering and all that's involved, and figure out, hey, OPSEC is important again. How do I plan an attack? So, first thing I would do, even 10 years ago, is map the target's defenses. Do they use an antivirus? Do I care? Do they use an IDS? Do I care? Can it stop me? Do I take the risk? Then suddenly, we started thinking about security vendors' backend capabilities. Can they put in silent signatures? Can they try to figure out what I do in retrospect? I'm installing right now, but they can find me later. Pretty complex stuff. Trying to figure that out when you're planning an attack. And next, we have Regin that came out, supposedly an NSA group, and it was an APT magnet. It was found in a machine. Read the report. I don't want to quote Kaspersky wrong, but it was found in a machine with other APTs on it. That's how essentially they found it. So many APTs installed there. What's going on? So again, read the exact report for exact information. So do I need to collect intelligence now on all the APTs out there, look for their existence, try to figure out if they're going to get caught before I install my own software? That sounds like a hell of an operation for me. So you need to really try to hide your identity now. That's what we get out of it. And then, of course, we have this example. Hurricane Panda, again, the name's changed. This is the CrowdStrike name. They had an actual case, speaking of OPSEC, where they didn't care that much. They would do incident response, and then the attacker would change gears, and they do incident response again, and they fought on the network for quite a while. Many attackers don't really care when you start doing incident response. Kind of boggles the mind, but they did run away eventually, according to the report. So that's interesting to see. Now here you have the Symantec, a part of the Symantec report about Stuxnet. And you can see, for example, the compilation time, the infection time, things. For example, if you see a compilation times that never work on the Shabbat, maybe they're Israeli, I don't know. I have no idea. But it can give you a lot of information. For example, how long, compile time, infection time, time to infect, how long does it take them to actually create an operation? Not necessarily, but you can learn a lot. And of course, at Dooku 2, everything was scrambled. So they do learn. So let's take it an example. We call this a cyber engagement cycle evolution. So 2 examples, threat group, Emissary Panda. They, like many other threat actors, revert to OS tools. For example, WMI, PowerShell, AT. And that's pretty much what we're seeing as far as progress goes. And Dooku 2 is a rare example where you can actually see an evolution at the lateral movement level. That nearly never happens. They were basically infecting only in RAM with very few machines actually doing the work. It was pretty cool to look at. So as they evolve, there is another part that we need to take into consideration, which I haven't seen people really talk about. And that's what we call the fold retreat part of the operation. They have been discovered, now what? So I wanted to speak about 3 examples really quickly. Red October, they dismantled after the publication. Partially, then fully, 2 weeks, whatever. And then the mask, Careto, we spoke about that. There was a vendor blog. Kostin wrote about it on the Kaspersky blog. and 4 hours, just wrote the name, the mask. He didn't say anything else. 4 hours later, the entire infrastructure for the mask was down. And then looking at Dooku 2, this is, of course, my own interpretation. Don't wait for the publication. Break into the vendor, figure out what they're going to do and what they want to release. So there is a certain evolution here, if you want to look at it that way. There are counterexamples of, again, groups that don't care and keep operating, but that's fine. So the defender side, this is really important to me. It's not perfect, but that's what we gotta do to start progressing in making APT reports matter to us. So, we're gonna talk about problem, takeaways, and solution based on the simplified model we just created for all APTs, right? It's much more complex than that. So first of all, compose intelligence requirements. The problem is, not enough information. What are the attacker objectives? We don't always know about RSA and Lockheed Martin. How can we get more of that? So the takeaway is, first of all, figure out that it's like having a stalker. When they like you, they really like you. Really like you. They're not gonna stop. That's number one. Don't fool yourselves. This is an example from a Dell SecureWorks report last RSA from Phil Burdett, where it shows an example where they were attacking, they started doing incident response, they went away for the weekend, and came back attacking again with slightly improved lateral movement tools. They're not going to give it up, most of them. Which is pretty interesting to me. Number two, stealing data is just one option. I mean, everybody was, not everybody naturally, but a lot of people were surprised at Sony that they were actually kicking the body. Think about it for a second. We know what a Trojan horse can do. It's inside your organization. Doesn't matter if it steals data or something else, but you haven't seen it before, have you? Saudi Aramco? You need to keep on top of that stuff. So stealing data is just one of the options. We need to figure out what else they can do once they're inside, and we know they're inside. So aside to Sony, the main action I believe we need to take is going all the way back to boring security, risk assessments. Risk assessments are boring documents we have absolutely no use for. We use them mostly for compliance. They're this big, if not bigger, and we throw them away the minute they're done. If we could figure out in a risk assessment, make it reasonable, make it tactical, operational, hey, if they have a Trojan horse inside, they can also use it for something else, that could be useful for us. It needs to be updated, it needs to be relevant. That's my take on it. Second, compile target list. Problem, there is no time-sensitive information out there. Reports take time. Mostly. Meaning, no pattern. It's really hard to do pattern recognition. Now, the takeaway is, if you have similar data or platform on any organization, at any organization, you can know you're on the list. And more than that, you can perform a threat assessment. Threat, for some, equals intent plus capability. Stay on top of it. See what's going on. If target is getting hacked, and it's because of their point-of-sale systems, make sure your point-of-sale systems are secure in what's going on there. 3, cyber engagement cycle. Let's talk about it a little bit. Pre-engagement stage, publicly available sensitive data is not really there. There is lack security awareness. It's pretty much an issue. Attacker can get a lot before reaching your network. That's fine. You need to limit the public information. You need to act outside your own perimeter, which is blowing my mind right now. And periodical awareness refreshments is basically Captain Obvious, but I have nothing better to say at this stage. Engagement stage, not many share lateral movement reports. Please start doing that. Takeaways, the engagement keeps going. There are many, many opportunities for you to intervene. Figure that out. You are not alone in this game. And last, put as many obstacles as you can out there. Layered security, deception. Share your breach data. It helps. In fold and retreat, the attacker can destroy the forensic evidence. I even go out and say, which is, I'm not going to back it up right now. I'm just saying it's a possible outlook at this. Logs matter a lot. And not just for monitoring. It's today we base a lot of our security effectively on incident response. If that is the case, backing up can be really important. Snapshots of the day, logs, keep them, and back up your logs for incident response. They can destroy their evidence. It's pretty simple. I actually made a name for this. My partner in crime did. Burp. Backup response plan. This is important. Make sure you have this data. And you can try this at home. Essentially, you have two things we talked about. We have the amount of data, type of data that you actually have in APT reports. See any APT report that comes out or any information you get. How much do I actually have? How much can I rely on this? And number two, go through this engagement process. Figure out what you can do for defense. It's not just about IOCs. If you do this with every APT report, if you demand more from your vendor, you will get more. And that is my personal takeaway from this. Now, there is something else I would like to talk about. And that is something we like to call the decline of shame. It seems to me almost like APT reports have come to a point where the APT threat actors no longer care about what, the first time APT1 got caught, it's true, they lost their infrastructure, but they were shying away quietly. Nowadays, people get caught, they don't even care, they keep moving. I want to keep it up there for another minute and just having fun with this. But there is a certain evolution in the mindset of threat actors as well, which we need to take into consideration. What we would like to see? First of all, better, more actionable APT reports. Many of them are very good. Many of them are stuck. It's basically malware information. Demand them. Number 2, earlier breach reports. Hey, if you can give us a heads up and we know your vertical is targeted, that's really important. If we know the type of platform being attacked, hey, that's really important. A lot of this is shared in closed circles. Most of this is not. Think about it. Third, actionable public information sharing. I was very weary about actually saying this because for me, for many, many years, anybody who says information sharing coordination is a noob to the security space. But I believe in this. If you guys can share more information, that will be amazing. And that's that. And last, I understand a lot of people want attribution. It's something with the lizard brain and it can help with policy, but enough with attribution already. Kudos to Dave Marcus, of course, whenever I say attribution. It's not the most important thing, as we have shown. Please. Okay? So, we'll talk later. Don't attribute based on IP addresses, please, for me. Okay? No public reports based on IP addresses. Final words. APT reports can be a huge help. They really can. Think about it. We said they're the QA for the attackers, but it's more than that. When you release the report, they are hurt in a major fashion. If you release a report that helps us create the defense we need, that will be really great, which means we want to stay on the attacker's sticks. Keep releasing the information. Keep making it relevant. It does help, but let's make it better. And essentially, let's increase their costs. Everything I do, from my startup to any project I'm involved with to other people, I'm talking about the asymmetry and their cost. If we can change this cost aspect of the attackers and attacks, that's all I really care about personally. And this is something I think APT reports can really help with. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions and I have time, I would be most happy to answer. But I will say, this has been very quick. There is an entire research behind it. If you're interested, I'll be most happy to share. Thank you very much. "22 minutes."
Well done. We got time for questions. If you can just raise your hand, I'll come find you. Come on,
Going
someone's
once.
got a question.
Yes, no?
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And again, on behalf of BSides, and thanks to one of our sponsors, Fitbit. Here's a Fitbit as our thanks.
That's
Appreciate
cool.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.